Hey everyone, it's Ananda from Galactic Mystic. Thank you for joining me today. Let's talk about the Pluto Square Pluto Transit. This is a big one. All right, Pluto Square Pluto Transit. This is a really important transit that everyone experiences. First of all, though, if you have not yet subscribed, it would be my honor to have your subscription. There should be a little flower of life in the corner there. Just click that, and that way you won't miss a thing. There are certain transits to the natal chart that everyone experiences. And there are about 6 really major ones. And I like to think of these transits as initiations or potential turning points and possible doorways to other life paths that were previously unavailable. It's kind of a big deal. The Pluto Square Pluto is one of these transits. And for most people, they experience this in their late 30s or early 40s, but there's a pretty big range for when this can happen. It's, late 30s to early 60s even for some people. But again, most people, it will be much earlier than that in the late 30s or early 40s. So I'm really passionate about this transit, yet to be totally honest with you, I would never want to relive it. Okay, so don't let that scare you, because not everyone's experience of this transit is that drastic. Mine was, and a lot of people's are, but not everyone. Similarly, a lot of people talk about their first Saturn return and how it really just knocked them for a loop, and I didn't even notice mine. So we can have different experiences of these initiations. The energy always has to manifest somewhere, but it doesn't always have to be this drastic. So that being said, when I was thinking about doing this video and just thinking about reliving it, and I thought, okay, Ananda, you're going to scare people. And so that's why I want to say not everyone's will be so dramatic. But for those who have a very potent experience of this transit, you're the ones I'm really talking to now, because this period of time, depending on how it hits you, it can just really be very trying. So let's talk about how that goes, or how that can go. I like to have a practical approach and to think of a positive outcome. And that's not just a platitude. This is real. It's a real, that's what it's about. It's an initiation to something better. And so in order to sort of earn that, although I don't know if it's really about earning it, but in order to receive the gift that resides at the end of this doorway, or the end of this hallway, or at the other side of this experience, is an initiation into our own potential and the possibility of our own human excellence. Now, I know that sounds maybe a little vague, but truly there can be a lot of questioning about your role in life during this period of time. It can be very vague. Your entire philosophy, your philosophical assumptions can just be annihilated. And generally, your overall purpose of life can be totally changed. You can become acutely aware of your childhood traumas, those things that we, earlier this morning, I was on the phone with my friend Natalie from Natalie Levin Astrology. And we were talking about this transit and how we can really wear certain blinders depending on our trauma, and how long it can take some of us to wake up to it. For me, it took me what I considered to be a kind of a long time. Was my Pluto square when I suddenly woke up to all kinds of stuff I had swept under the rug and had not been able to see. And it's no judgment. We're just ready when we're ready, you know, and a lot of times the Pluto square will make you ready. The real change is an inner change, but it can be outer change that forces the inner change. Doesn't have to be, but it certainly can be. There's really a bit here about how having to face how our own lack of self-confidence has affected our decisions and how we have denied ourselves balanced power, if that makes sense, like owning balanced power. So this transit can take an incredible toll on some people. I just can't lie about that. On one hand, I want to say we're faced with everything we've swept under the rug, or just haven't been able to figure out how to heal and release, or haven't been able to we just haven't had conscious access to it. I mean, but then on the other hand, it's this initiation that grants us access to something better. And that sounds mystical because it is. It's like the transit itself acts like a weird magic mirror, or like you just stepped out of the fun house where all the mirrors were all weird and distorted, and what you see when you come out of there is totally different than what you thought it was going to be. Your new reality can feel distorted, and there's a loss of equilibrium there that can be really exhausting. And our brains can lie to us and tell us that it's never going to feel stable again. And because the Pluto Square Pluto Transit is kind of a lengthy transit, it's not just like, a couple weeks. For some, if Pluto's, retrograding and going back and forth, it can be a year or two that this period of time just kind of keeps pounding at you. But the thing is, Pluto, he doesn't punish, even though we're really scared of him. He's ultimately asking us to face what we don't want to face. We must surrender in order to do this. And for some of us who are extra stubborn, he has to, we have to be brought to our knees in order to surrender. And some of us will not get to our knees until we are too exhausted to stand. And this transit does that. It forces you to surrender. I really didn't want to surrender. So in this exhaustion, we cannot maintain any more facades. We have to be, we are naked, soul naked and bare. And we must rely on our faith or cultivate faith. For some of us, for the first time in our lives. So depending on you and what Pluto is asking of you in this lifetime, the Pluto transit will likely have some things falling apart, inside and or outside. These are most likely things that are not compatible with the gift that resides on the other side of the doorway. That doesn't mean you're not really, really attached to those things, though. And it can really hurt when and if those things that we're really attached to but aren't good for us start falling away. Relationships, roles that you play, your general belief system are all up for death and rebirth. It's total phoenixing. You may feel like it will never end, and you might think that giving up is the best thing and the only thing because it's never going to end. And what's true is that an invisible hand is reorganizing your life, and the inner transformation is the gift that will then reflect in your outer life. Your faith is what's really on the line here. Do you believe you can get to the other side? So Pluto is the lord of the underworld. He's the god of death. And this transit, in a lot of ways, prepares us for death, even though for most of us, angels willing, actual exiting the physical realm should be way down the line. But it prepares us by showing us what we are made of. When the tsunami slams against our lives or against our inner world, we have to face what our belief system is made of, and ultimately what we're made of and what we're capable of. So maybe now you can see why I consider this a sacred initiation, and maybe why I would never wish to experience it again. It's hard AF for most of us. So if you are having this transit and you're having a hard time and you're feeling exhausted and like it will never end, just please take a moment to breathe and know that you don't have to judge yourself so harshly. You are not alone ever, even when it feels like you are. And you are loved beyond measure. And if I can help you with this, I have a Pluto reading, because usually it's our natal Pluto that holds the keys to what gets slammed into and reorganized during this transit. So I'll put the links in the box below, and let me know if I can help. All right. So Pluto Square Pluto Transit. Hard, exhausting, but with gifts you cannot even fathom, because you don't even have access to the consciousness that lies on the other side. It's so, the rewards are worth it. Trust me. See you next week.